sometimes digital recording just exposes flaws in your sound. And that's just the way digital recording is unforgiving. But there's something about the Skulpter that adds, let me just show you.
From the mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov.
So right here, this is the magic right here. This shape circuit, right, adds a really beautiful saturation to it. And it's very tube-like. Here, let me show you. So what you're listening to is, I have it dialed pretty much like 12 o'clock, right? So it's about 50% of the full shape capacity right here. So let's take it all the way down to 0. So this is without any saturation at all, right? And it's not like a massive difference. It's like what you're hearing with the shape circuit initiated is that it starts to add this beautiful color and lift. And it's because there's also this 4.5K like increase when you do this. Now here I got it up right around 2 o'clock, right? It's really pretty aggressive. And it's really kind of taking out, it's like tilting out some of that low mid, which especially you don't really need for voiceover. So you can get it really aggressive, right? If you want it super, super aggressive, that's going to cut through anything. But right here, right about 12 o'clock, I think this is so nice for commercial use. Right here, Lisa brand new Honda Accord LX, right? We could give it a little more punch. Lisa brand new Honda Accord LX, right? I love that. And I mean, what's versatile about it, what is beautiful is that, again, if I want to take it to a more gentle tone, right, I can do this, I can roll it back. But what I've really found, especially with a mic like the U87, is when you add more saturation, what you're getting, it's not like you're adding more. Well, you're adding more grit, but you're adding more intimacy too. Because when I dial it up like this, right, especially when you do sensitive reads. And when I say sensitive reads, I'm talking about like sensitive topics, like, and healthcare. When you're doing compassionate reads, I should call them, right? When you're talking about that, and you really have to bring your voice down. Because when you're doing those kind of reads, you don't want to push your voice. You're not pushing from your diaphragm. You're not bringing it up here like this. You're bringing it down like this. It's like, this is the time of year when a lot of you need help picking what you're going to buy. I know that's not a sensitive topic, but when you're doing that, you want to bring your voice down, like you're really talking to somebody about you're being compassionate to someone across the table. So you're not blasting your voice at them. You're not pushing from your diaphragm at them. You're talking really just kind of at a really maybe a low conversational volume. But when you dial up this saturation, it just brings it forward. So you don't need to push your voice when you're doing it. You can perform it with a lower spoken voice and really get more out of it. You're getting more push, you're getting more fullness out of it, right? So when you're down here, it's almost like ASMR. And you can really, if you really want to dial it up all the way, you can really go down here. You can ASMR the crap out of it. So, but I like it for commercial right about here. And then you got this great low cut, right? So right here, right where we got the low cut, we got about, again, like 50%. I could take this all the way down, but then if I dial it up here, right, I can get a little bit more of this, right? I get a little bit more, hollow out that bottom end a little bit. So you're getting more of that mid-range. And remember, voiceover is all about the mid-range, right? So, and then the compression. So we've got a fair amount of compression. You can see the compression triggering a lot when I'm talking. When that red light goes on, it's triggering, right? And the intensity of the light shows you how intense, how much compression I'm getting. But what I love about it is that it is very transparent. It's extremely transparent. So in or out of the circuit, it makes no tonal difference. So for voiceover, that's like cheating. Because a lot of times when you try to use compression for voiceover, and a lot of us try to lean on like an 1176 or something like that, right? A lot of times when you're using compression for voiceover, you're adding weight and you're adding tone. And especially something like an 1176, you're also kind of adding that little high-end like pop, It's a little bit more in your face. And that's the beauty of an 1176. When you use like an LA2A, you get like kind of more of a smeary transient thing. It's a little bit more musical. It's a little bit more, It sounds a little bit more friendly, right? But those are not necessarily the right types of compression for voiceover, especially when you're cutting. And usually you don't want compression when you're cutting because you make a mistake with that. And that ruins the whole take if you're printing that. But with the Skulpter, when you have transparent compression like that, when your compression isn't really affecting the overall tone of your product, of your recording, right? When you have that right there, you can use it, especially for character stuff.
If you want to use it right there, you can get it right on the dot, right there. Make sure that you don't overmodulate.
Now, a lot of times you don't want to use compression when you're cutting, but sometimes, especially for commercials, you want to get it in there. So you want to have a more even dynamic flow through your entire read, right? Through the entire project. But I mean, how versatile is that? So, I mean, what an amazing channel strip this is for the U87, because I do think that having put my U87 through every single preamp I have, this is by far the best it's ever sounded. And taking a preamp, right? And taking a preamp and putting it into the equation overall is really a good move, and I'll tell you why. Because if you are just plugging a really nice premium recording tool like the U87 just directly into an interface, you are not getting all that it's capable of. And that has everything to do with the fact that interfaces and a lot of preamps are underpowered, right? Especially if you have a bus-powered interface, right? Something that runs off USB. USB is 5 volts, okay? And that's powering the entire interface, including the headphone output, including both preamps. So what you have is like a very minimal minimal power going to the preamp. When you have a preamp like the Elysia Skulpter, which is running off of a 500 series power, the power from the chassis, that's 15 volts, right? So you're going to have much more headroom. You're going to have the ability to have more nuance and more detail. So that's what I love about this, is because I really feel like it's adding depth to the U87, especially when you get in here with this saturation circuit, right? You can really just feel like it just has this beautiful organic depth. And if you want to, you can really mess with it so that it sounds more in the room. So does the Skulpter make the U87 a better microphone? You bet it does. Absolutely. So, but what do you think? What do you think of the Skulpter? I am discovering more and more things that I love about this, because the versatility of it, the fact that I can have it right here and just kind of really dial in every read where I want it. And so if I want it to be a little bit less in your face, I take the saturation out. If I want to be a little bit more commercial-like, so it's going to cut, so it's got that more of a mid-range presence, right? I dial it up. And if I want to get really crazy, I just, take it all the way up. But right here is great. Right between like 10 and 2 o'clock. This is such a sweet spot for this, for VO, especially on the 87. All right, what do you think? What do you think of the Elysia Skulpter with the U87? All right, I want to know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. But leave a comment. And until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.